everyone, Lisa Gifford here, and welcome to another Creating with Martelli. And today we are going to do a tutorial on making Lisa's bucket hat. I'm so excited to get this one ready for all of you. We've been working on it for a while, a good long bit, right Margot?
Right.
So I have Margot with me, and you just heard her say, hello Margot.
Hola everybody.
Hola. And of course we got James here, he's behind the camera, so if you have any questions, all you have to do is just pop them into the comments and we will address them. We got Margot here, so she's going to be monitoring to answer any questions you might have, or to let me know if there's a question I need to answer, she'll let me know. But we have a really fun show for you today. I'm only going to make one bucket hat today, but if you see in front of me, I've got all these different varieties of how you can make them. I got them in cotton, and I don't even think I have my denim one. I have a canvas one here. I've got all the different sizes except the small. I didn't have the small with me, but they do come in 4 different sizes. We have a small, medium, large, and an extra large in the templates. So here's all of our template sets. So you have all the pieces, and each template set makes 2 sizes. And on the written instructions that they all come with, you'll see that I have the description in here and the sizes. But if you go to the website, go to martellinotions.com, click on Lisa's bucket hat on any one of them, and then just scroll down just a little bit on one of those hats. You're going to see where I've got the supplies that you need, but you'll have this full description on here on how to measure what size hat that you're going to need to be able to make. And I go over if you're even, or if you need to bump up a little bit, just bump up to the next size. But I got everything, you see them on your screen right there, everything talking about the sizes that you need to be able to make your hat. And we'll do that here. Let's see, what fabrics you're going to need. You're going to need rather some quilting cotton. You might need some SF101 or a product called Shirt Fuse, or the Bolsel Shirt Fuse, if you want to add just a little bit of stability. I find that works really good if you're doing a hat that is all quilting cotton. If you're doing a hat that has with denim or with canvas, you might not even have to have any of the SF101. You only need about a half a yard of fabric to make one hat, and that's enough to do the lining and the exterior fabric. What are some other supplies that you're going to need? Besides the template, you're going to need some things that will be very useful. Of course, the rotary cutter. I like the 28 millimeter, works really good for doing some of the curves. Maybe some tweezers. I got my little tweezers here that have the angled on them. Maybe some little precision scissors, some sneers. These are the 2 feet that I'm going to be using throughout this project. On my machine, I am using our A foot. This is our regular foot that comes with the machine. I have the M7 that I'm working with, Janome M7. And then I'm using the foot that's called a G foot, or it's an overlock foot. It has a little bar that's in the middle. So I use this, and you'll be seeing me flipping back and forth because I use it for all of my top stitching. It works really well for that. Now this little tool here is something that I've had for a while. It's called a seam guide ruler. What I love about this, and we don't carry these, I just had these, because we are sewing all of our seams on 3/8 of an inch. So I am so used to 1/4 inch, I had to figure out what that adjustment was for my machine. What is 3/8 of an inch? Well, for my machine, it's literally having my needle right in the very center. And then instead of having it set on the 1/4 inch setting, my needle is just center, and I'm using the guide, the edge of my foot for my guide, and that got me right to the 3/8 of an inch. So if you have whatever tool, or maybe the lines on your machine, everything here is based on 3/8 of an inch. With that being said, if you find you might need it to be just a little bit tighter or a little bit looser, that gives you a little room where you could, make it go a little bit wider, maybe go a 1/2 inch, or if you needed to make it be a little bit tighter, you can go all the way to a 1/4 inch, but I did base this pattern on 3/8 of an inch. Other tools, you're going to need some clips. I use clips throughout this project. I find they work a little bit better than using pins, but I suppose pins would work also. A tape measure. You're going to need a tape measure so you can get your measurements done. I have a pressing ham. I like to press all of my seams open. So I press my seams open. It makes it lay a little bit flatter, and then I like to add extra stitching. This extra stitching is not required, but I think it makes it look a little bit nicer. If you see, I have top stitching on the top, I have top stitching on the sides where what I call the crown, and then I have the top stitching right here on the seams for also the brim, and then we have all the top stitching on here. I just think it just gives it a little bit more of a professional look by adding the top stitching to it. Now, when I was showing this for the very first time a couple weeks ago, I think it was Heather who had asked, could you make this hat with netting on the inside? Well, my first thought was trying to figure out how you would do it, because it's done in 2 layers, and I thought the mesh would not work very well as a double layer. However, with this hat, I think you could also make this hat as a single layer if you use something that's a little bit more heavier, like a canvas. So this morning, me and Margot got up and we put together the bucket hat, and this is done in my size, and we used the mesh netting on the inside. And it's just a single layer, so you've just got your hat, the top part right here. We're going to cut out our top. I cut out the 2 pieces that you need for your crown, what I call the crown. And then I did a single layer for the brim, but what I did different for the brim, I wanted to have a little more body to it than just the canvas without the body. So we added some SF101 on it, and then all we did was we folded over the edge and stitched it down. So this is just a single layer, but it's got the mesh netting. Now, another thing that we had done, and this is where having a serger would be good, if you wanted to serge all of your seams, that's what I did here. I serged it here, and then I serged it on the inside, so it protects those seams a little bit and whatever scratchiness that might be from the netting, because this is not a real soft, loose netting like you would find for like a laundry bag. So it has a little bit more of stiffness to it. And it turned out very, very nice. What do you think, Margot?
Yes.
Yeah, it turned out nice. It's just
cute.
a single layer. So those of you who want to have a little air conditioning with your hat, then try it with the little netting. I think it turned out really, really good. And serging the seams made it so nice to be able to just protect all those seams, and then I top stitched on the top and had it all out of the way. So this worked out really, really good. So here's just several examples of some ideas that you could use, you know, because it is a reversible hat. And it's just absolutely a lot of fun. And I've got all the different sizes here. So I'm going to move some of these things aside. Oh, and the pressing ham. I didn't know if I talked about the pressing ham. This really helped because I like to press my seams open. So then when I do my top stitching. And when we do that, I'm going to show you exactly how I do all of that. All right, so I'm going to move all of our hats out of the way. Any questions?
No, I just wanted to see if you needed help.
See if so before I'm going to move all the hats. Yeah. I'm good. All right, so I'm going to set all of our, again, here's all the different sizes. We have them all different sizes. We've got both those sizes. And I have them based on the sizes of what a typical hat is. 6, 6 1/4, 6 1/2, 6 3/4, 7, 7 1/4, and 7 1/2 and 7 3/4. So I base it off of what typically people buy hats on the sizes that they are. So we're going to start with going over measuring. How do you get your measurements? And on my description here, determining the size you need, I talked about a couple of different ways, but I found it just doing the basic measurement, because I did have a formula that I was doing where you got your measurement, you bumped it up, you you added, I have it on here, where you measure, if your head moves is 22 1/2, you round up to 23, divide it by 4, add an inch, and that was one way. But let's just go by just the measurement of your crown so that you'll know. And when I talk about the measurement of your crown, to me, it's where the hat is going to sit on your head. So using a tape measure, you're just going to measure all the way around where a hat would sit on your head, where you would want it to sit on your head. And then you're going to find that edge, and you're going to, I can't see because I don't have my mirror, but I'm going to pop it right here where my fingernail is. And I am 21 1/2 inches, 21 1/2. So if you go to the measurement on your script, which you can see your screen, or on your paper, go to where you see it's 21 to under 20. I'm going to say I'm 21 1/2. I'm usually go, so I bump up. So I don't keep it at that 21 1/2. I bump it up to the next the next number. I'm 22. So I'm 22 to 23 inches to under 23 inches. So that puts me at 6.75. That's the size that I am. If you find yourself like 21 3/4, you're going to bump it up to the 22. If you're 23 and a half. You're going to go 23, bump it up. You're going to be 24 inches. You're going to be a 7. How about if you measure your head and you're right at 23 inches? I recommend go up to the next size. Go to the 23 inches to under 24. You'll be a size 7. And then I tested this out on everybody that works here, and it worked out perfect for everybody that I measured, and then I put that hat on them of the sizes that I made. It fit them perfectly. So that was, I found, was the easiest way to determining what size hat that you're going to be making based on that measurement. So 21 and a half, bump it up to 22. It brought me to 22 to 23, 7.35 or 6.75. So that was how I worked it. If you have any questions, just post them in the comments and we'll go over it again. But that's what I did. I measured here and I found out worked out for all of these measurements right here. I think I got it there. All right, moving on. We're going to start with making a hat. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to do it out of some denim. I found the denim was so nice to do. Now, if you're going to be making a hat out of the cotton, like one of these, full cotton. So I did, my lining is just a straight fabric, but I actually put my interfacing, my SF101 or my shirt fuse, I put it on what I was going to use for my exterior fabric. And I actually took my fat quarter and put it on the fat quarter, whatever fabric that I was going to use. I just completely covered it because I found it was easier to do that than it was to cut your pieces out and then cut your interfacing and then try to match it all up. So I just put it onto my outer fabric and then I cut my pieces out first. I didn't do it to the lining. I only did it to whatever fabric that I was going to use for my outer fabric. I'm doing a denim hat today. So the denim hat, I've already made my lining, because you're repeating whatever you're going to do for the lining, you're going to do for the exterior. Again, the lining has no interfacing on it, but it's completely sewed as if I was using this for my outer fabric. So we're going to use a piece of denim. So I haven't used a denim that has a stretch to it. This is one of my husband's old jeans that's been sitting up in the closet forever, and I already had made one hat. So this is, I have left of this leg. So we're going to show cutting this out of this piece right here. So I'm not going to utilize anything that has the seam in it. I'm going to fold my little piece right here because I'm going to go ahead and get my templates out. And I forgot to mention, we got some markings on all the templates, so each one will have the sizing on there, but I needed to talk about why we only have 4 pieces instead of 3 for one and 3 for the other. So in this one here, the 6.5 to 6 3/4, you've got 2 different tops. You got a 6.5 and you got a 6 3/4. So if you're only doing the 6 3/4, you won't be using this piece right here. So here's the top for the 6 3/4. But the crown and the brim are for both sizes. On this one here, you'll see a 6.5 to 6 3/4. It says crown, has 2 other initials on here. One is an I and one is the V. So if you wanted to get your marking pen, you'd be able to mark those. The I means there's instructions that came with this with these templates. The V means there's a video, and that's the video that you're watching today. It actually says crown, and it actually has the number 6.5 to 6 3/4. On the side here, you see where it says fold. I'm going to have him zoom into that so that you can see where it says fold, because this is important. This is why each of these pieces works for both sizes. So you got the fold line that's right here. You see that? So there are 2 fold lines. The inside fold line, this one right here, the inside line, that is the 6.5 line. This outer edge, this right here, is 6 3/4. So 6.5, 6 3/4. So you've got the 2 fold lines on here. It's going to be the same thing for your brim. The brim's going to have the 6.5 and 6 3/4. It's going to have the I and the V. It's going to say brim on it, but it also has fold and then the line and then the outer edge. The inner line on the fold is for the 6.5. The outer edge, that is for your 6 3/4. And it's on that on all the templates. If I pull out, say, the extra large, it's going to be the same thing. The extra large set, you're going to have the 2 different pieces. You're going to have the 7.5 and the 7 3/4. They also have the I and the V, the top fold. So you got the fold where this sits on the fold here. Now pulling out the brim and the crown, it's going to be the same thing. You're going to have this, the number on here, 7.5 to 7 3/4. The fold that's going to be on the side. The inside one's going to be the smaller one. The outside one's going to be for the larger. Same for the crown. The inside line is going to be for the smaller, which is in this case 7.5. The outside edge, where you're going to place the outside edge on the fold, that's going to be your 7 3/4. So all of the templates, that's why we were able to save on cost a little bit by being able to put the 2 different sizes on one set. Couldn't do that with the crown because it just changed it a little bit. All right, or not the crown, but for the top. All right, I'm going to set these all aside, and we're going to start with the medium. And the first template that I'm going to pull out, so I'm not doing the 6.5, so I'm going to set the 6.5 aside. Before I go any further, do we have any questions?
Nope. No questions.
Yes. Everybody catching up already?
Everybody's watching.
All right. And I don't know if Greg is watching.
He is. He wanted to know what size of hat he'd take.
Greg would probably be the 7.5?
Yeah.
Yep. So I just want to say that I kind of want to dedicate this show to Greg McCarthy. Because if you don't remember, if you go back in time, the very first live tutorial that we did, the very first one, and the very first one that we actually had not only a class, that we had an inside class when we in the new building, our sewing room, but we also did it where you could watch it remotely too, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. It was also remote. So we had a group of people that was in the class, and then we also had people that had tuned in from all over the country to watch the class. It was our very first one, and it was on the bucket hat that Greg had come in and that he had taught that class. It was the Mr. Domestic bucket hat. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to say, hey, Greg, and dedicate this show to you. So I told him I was going to do it. And also, we changed up the hat from the one that we did with the Mr. Bucket hat. He had a band that went on that one. It was round for a round head, and I thought we need to change this up. We're not going to add the band. We're going to simplify it, but we're also going to shape it on what our shape of our heads is, which is more of an oval. So that's where this came about. All right, so y'all ready? Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I got my denim here, all nice and pressed, and I am going to put it where I got it on the fold, and I'm going to take my top piece, and I'm going to set where it says fold, the straight edge right here. This is what's going right there on that straight edge right there. So I'm just going to slide it down just to save as much fabric as I can. And can y'all see that? There's my fold, and it's on the fold right there. All right, now we're going to go ahead and cut this out. And I think I could probably get out of a pair of Kurt's jeans maybe 3, possibly 4 hats. What? Mark was laughing.
I would say 4 hats.
Yeah, I could get probably 4 hats. All right, so we got the first piece cut out. So I want you to see something because this is important. So before you open up, don't open up your piece yet. Go ahead and remove your template. It's still folded. So I just take I'm going to put a little dart on both sides. I'm just nipping off this little edge on the hat because I want to find where my centers are. So I know that those are my centers on the sides. Just a little dart, just taking off a little step. You could use your precision scissors, whatever you feel comfortable with to go ahead and do your darts. Now I can open it up. All right, got it open? Now I'm going to refold it. I'm going to match up my darts that I just cut. Now I'm folding it on the opposite, matching up my darts, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to put a little nip on this side, and I'm going to put a little nip on this side. So now when it's opened up, all 4 of my quadrants are marked, so I know where my centers are. Now, when we're talking about the crown, the top, our heads are oval like this. Long, short side. Long here to here, short here to here. So that's how I based this oval. So the long top piece, the long front, back, side, side. The shorter side, that's your side pieces. The longer side, that's your front and your back. You can also determine that by just setting it on your mat, finding a place to measure. On this one here, from 20, I'm starting, so I got 7.5 inches. So if I measure it the side to side, it's only 6 3/4. It's 6 3/4, side to side. So that's why I know that's my side pieces and that's my front and back. The side pieces is where all of my seams are going to be on the hat. That is going to be, let me find that black and white one, or I think you can see it better on this one. So here's my seam. So it's on the side pieces. There's the seams. I have all the seams on the sides, on the side. So that's why I'm going to be matching up my seam when I sew my other pieces together. So there's no seams on the front, no seams on the back. The seams are on the sides. All right, so there's my front piece, my top piece. So I'm just going to set that aside because now we're going to move to the brim and the crown, and we've got to cut out 2 of each one, 2 crowns and 2 brims. So getting my fabric back, looking at what I've got to work with. We're going to have to fold it this way. I got to get 2 brims and 2 crowns made. So I've got to consider, I've got to have enough space. That's why, Margot, I don't know if we're going to have it to get 2 rims and 2 crowns. So we'll probably get 1 and we'll have to go to the other piece. And I want to be sure that I do not have where it's cut off short on the other side. So since I'm doing the 6 3/4, I'm using the full template, the full piece. So I'm going to kind of finagle this around a little bit to see what would be the best placement so that I can get 1 cut and then I'll have to get another 1 cut. But I don't want to get the seam in it, so I've got to move it down a little bit. All right, so I can get a full set cut right here, kind of moving it back, making sure it's all fitting on here. So I got to cut 2 of the crowns. I've got it right there on the edge of where it says on the outer edge for the fold for the 6 3/4. All right, set this side. Same thing. When I lift it up, keeping it folded, I'm going to go ahead and do my 2 little nips again, and I'm doing it on the crown on both pieces, inside and outside at that fold. So now when I open it, so I know now there's where my center is. So that's the first of the crown. I got to cut out another crown. Got to have 2 of them. So I'm grabbing my little piece, looking at where I need to fold it. All right, I'm going to get another crown. I'm sitting here wondering, we'll grab my brim and see if I can squeeze a brim on here. Nope, I have to go to the other piece. So I'm going to lay this on here. Right there on the fold, and I'm going to cut out my second crown. And just like before, keeping it folded, I'm going to go ahead and at the fold, do a little nip with my trimmers. So now I know where my halfway point is again on the fold. So those are both of my crown pieces. I'm going to set those aside. Now we're going to move on and we're going to go ahead and cut out, because I don't think I have enough on this to cut out 2 of my brims. I'll probably cut one off on one leg and one on the other side. So same thing, I'm just laying this on here on the fold. I don't want to have any of that seam of the, we didn't cut off on the pant leg, so it's right here. So now I'm going to cut this all the way around, and then we'll cut the second one. All right, so here's the first brim. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to lift it up, keeping it folded, and we're going to notch at the fold, top and bottom at the fold. This is marking my centers. You're going to need these placements in a little bit. So here it is, notched here and here. Both of them are notched. Can you all see that? So that's my first brim. Now I've got to cut out one more brim. See if I can get one on this side. Don't know if I can. Sometimes you can move the fabric around to get it. If not, just go to the other side. Checking to make sure it's all under there where I need it to be. In fact, I can slide it down a little bit. All right, again, I'm doing this 6.75, so I'm lining it up on the fold. And we're going to go ahead and cut this piece. And again, here's my brim. Lift it off my template. Now I'm going to go ahead and nip off those little top of the fold and the bottom of the fold, just a little bit, so I can mark my center so that now when I open it up, you're going to see my little notches, my little darts right there. So you're going to do this to all the pieces. You're going to do it through the crown, both the crown pieces, both of the brim pieces, and you're going to do it to your top piece. That's finding all of your centers. So that's going to be used for all of your placement. So the next thing we do is sewing. So I've got my brim pieces, I've got them together, got my crown pieces, and I've got my top piece. So the next thing we're going to do is you're going to go ahead and take your crown and your brim, and you're going to go ahead and place them right sides together, matching up your points here, and you're going to stitch 3/8 of an inch on both sides. We're going to do it to both pieces of the brim. We're stitching them together now, and we're going to do it to both pieces of our crown. Right sides together, lining up your edges, 3/8 of an inch here, 3/8 of an inch here. I found it easier just to go ahead and do these two pieces, because then we're going to press open our seam and we're going to go ahead and get those two pieces top stitched. Get that done before we even start of attaching it to the top piece. Y'all ready? Okay, so let's go to the sewing machine. Grab the scissors, grab my feet, grab my tweezers because you're going to need those, and my clips. I think I dropped a foot. And going to need your, I'm going to use my pressing hand because I'm going to show you pressing. Even though I don't press as much when I'm working with the denim, but it does help a little bit. So if you're doing the two pieces, you know, the middle and the, you're doing your lining and your outer piece, do them all at the same time. Chain piece them all together, then top stitch your crowns and your top pieces all at the same time. It's going to make it go a little bit faster. Just get both of your crowns done, both of your brims done, because then you'll just attach them to the top piece, do your more top stitching, and then you put them together. It goes faster if you're pressed for time to just go ahead and get them all cut out and get all of these different steps done. You're not having to switch back and forth between the feet so much either, because there's a lot of switching back and forth. Now I chose for this one, being a denim project, I chose, well, Margot was the one that suggested that use more of a golden color, because if you look at the stitching on jeans, you know, the detail on stitching on jeans seems to be that golden color thread. So I found me some, you know, kind of a taupey color thread. We're going to be using that for everything. All right, so here's I'm going to start with the crown. That's the wider one. So I've got my pieces lined up. You can clip it or pin it, whatever you feel comfortable doing. I'm going to put my foot on here, and I'm going to just have my machine set right in the center. On my machine, it's 4.5, and then I'm bringing my stitch length down to 1.80. And we're going to stitch 3/8 of an inch on both sides. And I do have a heavier duty needle in here. I have the purple needle, which I believe is a 14. You could add a denim needle if you want. Make sure it's all still lined up. And we're going to now go ahead and get the crown piece done. Same thing that we just did for the crown, we're going to do on the brim. I'm going to go ahead and stitch this down. And then get the other side. So I'm just going to clip apart my pieces. Now we're going to go to the iron. I'm going to show you what we do next. I like to press my seams open. Now denim's a little bit easier because you can pretty much finger press it and just hold it in place. But I'm just going to go ahead and just press my seams open because we're going to top stitch now on both sides of that seam. So I'm just kind of holding it, finagling it a little bit of a way out of my way, and just giving it a pressing that seam open. It's just going to make it a little bit easier for doing all of your top stitching. And repeat that for your brim. Any questions? Everybody with me so far?
Everybody's with you.
Yay! All right, top.
Everybody following along good. Lisa loves hearts, by the way.
I do. I do love hearts. And if you haven't, be sure to like, comment, and share. I'm sure other people might like to see this. All right, so now we're going to do some top stitching on both of these pieces. And if you're doing the crown and the top piece at the same, both the lining and the outer piece, then you would just do it all at the same time. Okay. I'm going to change my foot out right here. I'm bringing in my G foot, which has that little bar in the middle, because this is going to ride along that seam for when I do my sewing. So I put my G foot on, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to move it all the way over to my left. And I think I'm going to have it about at 3. I could have it to 0, but I'm going to put it at 3. All the way over to 0.3. Now we're going to just go ahead and top stitch all of these pieces down, and I'm going to almost do it like a giant chain link. You'll see. giant chaining. I don't worry about bringing up my bottom thread or all this, because all of this is going to be hidden in a seam. So I'm going to have that little bar that's on my G-foot riding in my seam, and I've raised my stitch length up to 4.0. Nice big stitch length. And we're just going to go sail all the way across. Keep in, make sure my machine sounds like he's making a funny noise. Give me a second. Let me pull out that thread and get it rethreaded real quick. You know your machines when they make a funny noise. Like, something ain't playing. There we go. Try this again. All right, so I'm just going to follow this seam all the way down, and I'm going to just kind of keep going till I get to the other side of the piece. Making sure that that little metal bar is riding along in that seam. And then I'm going to feed the next one through.
Monica says, Lisa, this is a wonderful demo.
Thank you. Going all the way across. Now I'm going to just grab the brim, and we're just going to keep sailing across, because we're going to do both pieces at the same time. And then bringing this one up, and then just keep sewing. Now I'm just going to turn it around, and we're going to catch it on the other side. And then the last one. How easy was that? So you just got to clip apart. And just like that, you have the top stitching done for your brim and for your crown, right here. So now's the fun part. Put it all together. So if you look at your crown, you'll see it's narrow and then it widens out. So this place where it comes in, that's what's going to be attached to the top. This bottom is going to be what's attached to the brim. So we're working on the crown. I find it easier if I have it where it is inside out. And now I'm grabbing my piece. Now I knew that the longer sides and the short sides, remember we talked about short and long, the short side, the short darts are going to be what's matching with my seams. So taking this and placing one of the short sides, right sides together, I'm just kind of tucking it in. And I'm going to match up that dart with the seam on the top of the crown. There's the seam, top of my crown. Here's the dart for the short side. I'm lining that little dart right dead center of the seam. And I'm going to put a clip right there. Now going to the other side, I'm going to repeat that. Taking that dart and matching it to the center of that seam where we just did that top stitching. And I'm going to put a clip there. Now, grabbing the dart that you have that's now going to be on the front or back, you'd also done a dart that was on the center of your crown here. So you're going to match up that dart with the dart on the top to the dart on the crown. Match that up, right like that. Put a clip there. Swing it around to the opposite side, same thing. Match up that dart with the dart that you made on your crown with the top. And put a clip there. So you should have 4 clips in here. Now I like to add a few more clips. So now I'm just going to kind of maneuver this around, matching up my seams, and I just start adding clips where I feel I might need it. You can put 1, you could put 2, you could put 3. It's just going to hold everything in place for you as you're doing your stitching. So I just kind of center it in the center here, and then I just start clipping. It should fit in very, very well. We worked really hard, didn't we, Margot, to get this to be just right without having to have any looseness in here. You see it ripple? I promise you it's going to smooth out when you're doing your stitching at that 3/8 of an inch. Here, and now I'm going to do the other side. Just kind of lining it up. And just keep clipping. When you're pushing it down just a little bit, it just all smooths out. I put quite a few clips on mine. And then the last one. All right, so it should look something like this with lots of clips. Y'all see that? So now all we're going to do is just go ahead and sew it. I like to start at a seam. Yep, we're going to get that out of the way. I'm going to start right here at this seam. I'm going to take this clip off, and we're just going to 3/8 of an inch. So I got to take off my G foot. This is where I got to switch it out again. Put back my regular A foot. Put my needle back to center. So that we are doing 3/8 of an inch from my foot needle to the edge of my foot. Take out my first clip. And I've got it where it's lined up against the side of my foot right here, and we're just going to do a quick back tack and then go all the way around. And then just take out the clips as we go. Keeping everything lined up as you do your stitching all the way around. Any questions, Margot?
No, no questions. 31 people watching right now.
Oh, that's good. Yay. Now sometimes you might have to grab a tweezers if it wants to pull in just a little bit. Just grab that piece, line it back up to the edge, and just hold it down. Might want to shift. That's where I would say you might need to use your tweezers for part of this part. almost around. Okay, so now we've got that top piece done. So I like to top stitch my top also. So I'm going to go over the iron. We're going to kind of show how we press open that seam, and I'm going to top stitch again on both sides of that stitch. You don't have to. I've seen some where you just folded it down and just top stitched one, but I think it just looks a little nicer with a double layer of top stitching on each side of the seam. So this might where you might want to use your ham a little bit to get this, because we're trying to press open this seam. So this might be one where it helps a little bit to have one of your pressing hams and just kind of opening up your seam a little bit easier. I found that this works very well. I can just use my finger to press that, hold that seam open as I'm going, but if you're not comfortable with that, you can go ahead and work to open up that seam by using a pressing ham. Kind of like give it a start for when you're doing your pressing. Here. I don't know how Margot did it so quickly. I'm sitting here struggling, Margot.
Sheer dumb luck.
She's really good at this. I'm just giving it a start, so it's easier once I get it down on the machine to use my fingers as I'm pressing around. Just a little bit more. I should have just said, hey, Margot, get over here and do this.
Yeah, I would have done it.
I know you would have. A little bit right here. It's just going to help it stay open a little bit better. All right. Now we get to go back to setting our, changing out our foot. I'm going to put and I go ahead and do this now because I found it's just even more cumbersome if I do it at the end. So I just go ahead and switch it out here instead of having the brim on too. I go ahead and do it here. Now I got my G foot on here. I'm going to move my needle all the way over to where I had it set before and raise my stitch length up to 4. I always like to start at a seam or on one of the sides. So I'm just going to top stitch. I'm going to kind of use my hands to kind of keep this open as I top stitch all the way around. I'm going to top stitch on the inside first, and then we'll top stitch on the outside. Just feeding that under there. Getting to where I have it, where my needle will drop down into a seam. I don't worry about bringing my thread up or anything because this is going to be on the inside. It's not going to be seen. So we're just going to stitch a couple forward, a couple back right here, and then we're just going to glide it around, keeping the bar in the seam as I go. And using my thumb underneath to keep that seam open. Smoothing it out on top. almost at beginning where we started. Right here. And a little back tack. Now I'm going to flip it around, and now we're going to do the other side of that stitching. Get that thread out of the way. And just like we did before, we're going to do the same thing, just keeping that seam, that little bar in that seam with your, that's on your G foot, and just guide it all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and clip some of those threads so they don't get in my way. Right. So that is the look that we're looking for. Y'all see that? Got the top stitching all on the top. It's not necessary, but I think it just shapes it and forms it just a little bit better. But it's your preference on how you want to do it. But I think it just looks really nice. All right, so the last step is we're going to go ahead and put the brim onto this. So we got our two sides here, so we know we're going to be matching up the two seams here. So you got to get it to where it's the right way. You got your inside, so you're matching up your right sides together. And you're just going to right sides together, match up your seam here. And I like to get really good with this because I want my stitches from my top stitches to kind of match up really good too. So whatever that stitch length that you had set from the bar, you want to repeat that for all of it so that your decorative stitches will all match up too. So I match up those decorative stitches and I drop a clip in there. And then I go to the other side and do the same thing. Matching up those decorative stitches and that seam.
Lisa.
Yes.
If you can't get all of the sizes, which size would you recommend to get? If they can't afford to buy them all, what would be, I would say the medium and the large.
The medium and large. Most everybody fit, when I was doing the measurements, was medium and large sets, the 6.5 to 6 3/4, 7 and 7 1/4. The smaller sizes, the 6 and the 6 1/4, that was more kids, I guess, kids sizes.
Yeah.
And then the extra large, if you know you got a really big head. But the size that seemed to be the most common when I was doing it was probably the 6, I would say the most common of all was probably the 7 to 7 and 7 to 7 1/4. Because I'm 6 3/4. David was 6 3/4. But most of my girls were 6 3/4 here that work here, or 7. So that seemed to be the sizes: 6.5 to 6 3/4, 7 to 7 1/4.
Okay.
Did that get that?
Yep.
All right, so now now I've just got my 2 edges done where the seams are. So remember those 2 darts that we had made? So we're going to match up that dart of the brim to the dart of the crown, put a clip there. And just like when we had attached the top, same thing. Going to match up the 4 darts first. And then you just I kind of wet my fingers a little bit, just kind of maneuver that around. Did you see that? I wet my fingers just a little and just started adding some extra clips in all the different areas. I start with the center and then I add more as I work around. And it should all line up very, very nicely. Here. And we're going to be taking that foot off and putting our A foot back on. Small clip. Has anybody made the bucket hat with a stretch denim? Because I have not done that.
Well, I can tell you, for me making my denim quilt, the stretch denim is not one that I would care to use on my blue jean quilt.
Just didn't look the same, or does it wear the same, or
didn't it? When I went to fold them over, it just stretched too much. It
oh,
was just
yeah,
too
there you
stretchy.
go. All right, so I've got all my pin clips in here, so I'm just going to start at a seam, and I'm just going to stitch all the way around and put my foot back on my A foot, and then put my needle setting back to center, which is going to be my 3/8 of an inch. And we're going to just start sewing all the way around. Okay, so if you wanted this just to be the ending, you would just press open that seam, and then you would top stitch it all the way around, and then just folded this under, and then if you wanted it to be a single layer, and you could just hem this piece right here. We're going to go ahead and top stitch around like we just did before. So we got to press open this seam. I'm just going to kind of give it a finger press, kind of push it around. Denim's a little bit easier to do that. I'm not going to sit there and fiddle with that, with the pressing hem. We're going to go ahead and get our top stitching done here on this piece, and then we're going to add our lining, and we're going to finish up the hat. All right, so I'm going to change out my needle, my foot again, putting my G foot back on, putting it back on the setting that I had earlier, and I'm doing my stitch at 4.0. I like to start at the seam I'm going to kind of use my thumb to press open the seam as I go and keep it nice and flat. And the last little bit. Coming up to where I started. All right, now we're going to flip it around and we're going to get the other side done. Same thing, I'm going to start at that seam. Coming up to the edge. A little bit more. All right, right where we've started. Just going to clip a thread or two. I'm not worried about the threads on the inside because they're all never going to be seen. So look at that. How cute is that? That little edging. I did as best as I could to match up my stitches right here, going down it looks like one continuous stitch right here. Not so much on the other side. All right, so you're going to repeat that exact process for your lining. However you do, get your top piece, get your lining done. So when you have them both done, now we're going to put them together. So you're going to have them right sides together, and you're going to match up your seams just like you did before. I gotta get my glasses back on for this. So whichever way to get it all lined up, right sides together, and match up a seam and put a clip in it. Because you also had done darts on the outer side of your brim pieces, so you're going to be able to match those up also.
I have a question.
Yes.
Monica Sanders says, Lisa, I would like to add a satin lining inside to protect my hair. How can I add that? Now, you see, now if it was a satin lining, I might put it on my head that it takes me half an hour to make my hair. But you would do it
I
the
didn't
same
design
way,
it to
wouldn't you?
do that. Hold on, let me think. A satin lining instead of...
Instead of the 100% cotton lining that we have.
Well, then make it... Oh, are you wanting like a satin band? Or you wouldn't want the whole lining to be?
Satin.
Hold on, let me think. I think I would probably be attaching it to the lining sewing it onto the lining first. Okay, I'm going to pull this out. So if I wanted to add a satin band to my hat, I would probably be sewing it right here on the outside of my lining right here. So say I did like a 3/4 of an inch satin binding, so I would have that piece. I would probably have the edges folded in. I would probably attach it here and here, and I would probably just sew it in, going all the way around. Now you could possibly sew it into when you go to sew your pieces together. So cut you a piece using the template and trimming it down, and then you could probably attach it straight onto the actual brim or crown piece before you go and put, you know, have one on one side, one on the other, then sew it on. So when you sew your two crown pieces together, it would be sewed in. That could be a thought way to do it too. That's what I think I would do. I'd probably be putting it in right here, the band right here. Yep. Before I go to attach it. Does that make sense?
I think Monica says, yeah, I believe I can add to just the crown and the side. Yep.
Yep, just to the crown. I wouldn't add, you're only going to add it to that. You wouldn't add it to the brim. You wouldn't even add it to the top. It'd just be a 1-inch band that you could just have it sewed in. Right. And you could use your template to catch the size that you're needing. All right, so now I'm going back to where I'm tucking the hat into the lining, the outer, well, in my case, it's the denim to the lining, and I'm matching up my seams. So I'm matching up seam here, and just like I did on all the others, all the pieces, I did one side, then I flipped it to the other side, and I matched up that seam. Matching up the seams. So once I have the seams matched up, now I'm going to match up my two darts. So I got these two darts to match up. And then going to the other side, matching up those two darts. Now I'm just going to do as I did before. Just start filling in between areas, adding the clips as I go. And it should line up perfect like it's doing right here. Just perfect. And one more side. Remember, you did this right sides together, so we're like, okay, what do we do how do we get it separated? Well, we're going to leave an opening somewhere. All right, so we got to leave an opening. So here is my two sides, front and back. So I would want my opening to be more on what I would be my back side. I don't want it on the sides. So I choose which side I want to use to have my little opening. So I'm going to kind of like do it catty corner to a side. So I'm going to go right here. So I'm going to take a red clip. It does not have to be a big opening. The hat is not really huge. So I'm just replacing two clips with reds. So there's where my opening is going to be, is right here. More towards the back and the side, but not directly on the side. Does that make sense? So I like to lay my hat down like this, and I'm going to now stitch all the way around to attach the outer piece to my jeans, to my denim, to my lining. Remove my first clip after I change out my foot. Get back to my regular foot. You won't need the G foot anymore after this, I don't think. Still keeping it at 3/8 of an inch. And we're going to just start sewing all the way around. coming up to my last red clip. Now what I like to do is now I'm going to do some clips around the edges. I found it laid a little bit flatter if I just took the time and just put some clips about a 1/2 of an inch all the way around. Just going to release that a little bit. I'm not going to clip where I'm going to flip it out. That will be used to tuck it in. It just gave a better look to the brim by just doing these cuts. Don't cut your stitches, but I'm doing them about a 1/2 of an inch apart. This is where you pull out your precision scissors for this. Of course, we got more top stitching to do. Any more questions?
No, but Nancy said, would just having the hat a larger size work for not messing your hair as much? Well, speaking for me...
Well, come on, Margot.
Speaking for me, if I spend 1/2 an hour on my hair, it's the cotton lining that messes it up no matter what size the hat is. And I think that's what she was getting at with using the satin on the inside. Now I would try the satin on the inside.
That
for
might
me.
be. That
the
might be.
The bigger hat might fall down a little bit too much on you, but I'm going to try the satin.
All right, so now the only thing left is to just pull your hat through the opening that you had left. I just kind of pull on it all the way around. And then tuck it back in. You might want to grab your turning tool to help push everything out. Roll it between your fingers, whatever you need to do. Just pushing it all out. Grab my knitting needle. I think I got it in here somewhere. We're going to push it out just a little bit. Just going to push out these edges a little bit. Make it a little bit easier. Because then we're going to iron it. And then we're going to fix that area where we left the opening. And then we're going to close it up by stitching all the way around. All right, going to go to the iron. We're going to give it a press. Getting the lining all up in there. And where we had left our opening, we're also going to turn that under and press it too. So I think that's where I like to start. Just kind of work on turning this under about that 3/8 of an inch where you had did all the way around. And matching it up with the lining on the bottom. I'm going to get it as close as you can. And then just pressing all of that, pressing your seam down. That's what I found. If I clipped it a little, I clipped it, it just seemed to make it lay a little bit flatter. Release some of that stress of being sewn and then turned into itself. back a little bit. Here. And a little bit right here. So now you're almost all done. It's getting there, right?
Mm-hmm. Now comes the fun part.
Yeah, now we just get to sew and sew and sew.
In circles.
In circles. Circle sewing. I'm trying to think if I used the G-foot for this part. I can't remember. I don't know. So I don't want this to shift where I had the opening, so I'm going to put a couple of clips there to hold it in place. Now we're going to just sew all the way around, keeping it flat and just sew all the way around. So the first stitch, I have it, I don't think it's the G-foot. I'm going to do my first stitch. I'm going to use my G-foot because I want my edge to ride along the edge of that bar in the G-foot. So we're going to slide my needle over to, I think, a 1, raising my stitch length up. That's what I've been doing before, to 4. And we're just going to, I like to start again at the seam, start and stop at the seam. So I'm going to drop my needle down in the seam. I'll probably I'm going to drop my feet, drop my needle down, bring my needle back up, pull up my thread here. Pulling up the threads on this part. Because I don't want that big knot on the bottom. Go forward a couple stitches, back a couple stitches, clip my threads. And we're going to sew our first round all the way around. And I am going to use the bar for this part. Because that way the edge of my hat can ride along that bar and it'll be pretty consistent as it's going around. So that just closed up my opening, and now we're just going to keep going around. And that's our first round. Round number 1 is complete. So now we're going to go take off this foot, put my regular foot back on, put my needle back to center. So now I'm going to have the edge of my foot now going to be riding all along the edge of my stitching. Again, I like to start in the seam, lower my foot, drop my needle, bring my needle back up, and I'm going to pull up that thread. Well, let's grab that again. Need to grab the thread to do that. Try one more time. I just don't want the big knot on the bottom. Drop my foot. So no nest egg by pulling our threads up. All right, couple stitches forward, couple stitches back, and then I'm using the stitch that I just did as my guide. I want a bigger stitch length. You do it nice and flat as I go. Coming back where I want to end, right where the stitches started. All right, now we're going to do that again. We're going to go over same distance. Grab my thread. Drop the foot. Drop your needle.
James?
Yes.
Is it possible, we have somebody wanting to know where to buy the pattern. Is it possible to put up a, thank you, for Carol?
Buy the what? Where to buy the template? Oh, posting that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Carol, James is going to put it up for you.
All right, coming on to our second.
It is.
All right, coming back to where I started. Back tack. All right, let's go another round. Grab my thread, drop my foot, drop my needle, pull it up, grab my bobbin thread.
Thank you, James.
I think I'm going to get 2 more rounds done. And then we start. Now as we're going around, I am making sure I'm keeping this nice and flat. Coming to where we started, and I go right into those stitches. One more row. Grab my thread, drop my foot, drop my needle, pull up my thread, grab it, pull it to the side, stitch forward, stitch back, and final round. This might be one of those times if you don't want your foot to be coming up every time you stop, you turn off that feature. If you have that on the machine, you'll have a little bit more control over this part. And coming up to where I started. Clip your stitches. You shouldn't have any on the bottom if you pulled up all of your threads, except the ones where you cut. So you just got those threads from where you cut your threads. I want some better precision scissors. Those are one, couple more threads. I think we're about done, Margot. What do you think?
We are.
There you go. I think we did it. And that is a denim bucket hat. And with all that stitching, it secures everything to your line. You going to come up here now?
Me?
So this is it. So this was the medium. This was the 7 3/4 that we had done. Isn't that just adorable? I really like that blue that we did for the inside on this one.
Yeah, it turned out really well.
Yep. So you got all your stitching on the inside, and you got all your stitching on the outside. And that is making it with denim. So you could do the same thing with cotton or canvas or anything, whatever you feel comfortable doing a hat. Okay, I want to go back to the one that we thought was really cool, because this was not our idea. This was, Heather was the one that had suggested it, and this is the one where it's just a single layer with some netting on there. And I did, it's actually the exact same size as this hat. So how adorable is that?
Yep.
You're a hot climate, you want to have a little bit more air conditioning.
And she wasn't on in the beginning. I think she's on now.
She's on now. So Heather, we made one. We made one. So and it's a single layer. So we were really excited. I was excited how it turned out. Used the serger to smooth out all those edges.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Are y'all good?
Well, I think they're all good.
Maybe I should try it on and mess up my hair.
I know.
You won't. I'm
It
gonna
takes
try
me
it
too
on
long
and mess
to
up my
do this.
hair. Oh my goodness.
It looks so good with what you have on.
It fits perfect. Oh my goodness. So awesome. I am so excited how this turned out. We've worked so hard to get this. To
make it right.
So many templates that we had to make to get to the right size, to adjust it, tweaking it. I didn't want it to be like any other hat out there. I wanted it to be a little bit more unique. I wanted to have the sizing to be precise. I wanted everything to go together like butter.
And it does.
And I think we did it. So I hope you enjoyed today. This, and I put my name on this one.
Yeah.
This is Lisa's bucket hat. Lisa's bucket hat. It's the only template I've put my name on.
Yeah.
We've worked on it so hard, and I really, really like it. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy making these. If you are making them, I want to see some pictures. Send them to, put them on the Martelli Quilters group. Email me. Email them to the learn@martellinotions.com, or just, send me a message on Facebook, because I'm on there. I would love, love, love to see the hats that you have made and what you think of this amazing template and how well everything worked together.
We have some ladies that have bought the template expecting them today, and some are going to buy them because of this.
Awesome. I hope you enjoy it. I tell you, it's absolutely adorable. I got the perfect size. For me, I think it's the crown is right,
Yep.
the brim is right, and having that shape of the head a little bit better, just making it just right. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
We had a good day.
We had a good day. Y'all have a wonderful day and a great
rest of the week.
rest of the week. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.